President Wagner, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks. It's a pleasure being back.
Great to have you back. You may be one of the fastest turnaround guests I've ever had, which I'm so pleased with.
That is great. I would love to have that distinction. It's a real pleasure being here.
Listen, so much, it feels like there's a snowball happening, at least in my world, around education in Idaho, right? You have a lot of things. There's a lot of attention given to K through 12, as there should be, right?
Sure.
Like we need to really develop our younger people as well as possible. But there's also now this real kind of national conversation and Idaho's unique conversation around, okay, but what do we do with people, or what do we offer to people? What do we publicly fund with people once they turn 18 and graduate from high school? You came on last time. We talked about the medical studies and offerings that ISU had, at least some of them, for instance, nursing program. After you, I also was very fortunate to have President Jones from CWI, and we talked a lot about the 2-year, very
doing a fantastic job.
Right. Yeah. Right. Excuse me. Talk to me about nuclear and the offerings of ISU. Now, the reason I specifically ask is because nuclear and alternate energy sciences are like, they're all coming to the forefront of the conversation. Even within the Treasure Valley, we're slotted to have like a 50% energy in demand increase over the next 5 years, which Idaho Power is scrambling like crazy to figure out. I have people from geothermal coming on. I had one of the county commissioners talk about the methane capture program that they have at the landfill, that they're then selling that gas, like all of these different things, all in the pursuit of producing more energy. Like we need energy. Nuclear is a piece of it. And I used to think that nuclear and the education around it was really just, all right, you got to get like a PhD and then do, like go somewhere and do something. But ISU has offerings that start way, way before, even undergraduate. You guys have like 2-year degrees or certifications, I think. So talk to me about the nuclear offerings that ISU has.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think we have to recognize, I've heard it described as the nuclear renaissance. This idea that nuclear energy, this sustainable form of energy, it's coming back. The idea, the concept, we have a federal government right now that's very, very interested in investing. We have population growth. The power grid that requires innovation. Nuclear responds to that in so many ways. And so it's exciting to look across the country to see this nuclear renaissance happening. That being said, the state of Idaho has been involved in the nuclear conversation for decades and decades and decades. You look at what Idaho National Laboratories has been responsible for decades, research. Idaho State University right there with INL, researchers and faculty working together, developing nuclear as a sustainable and safe energy source. So this has been happening for a long time. Heck, Idaho State University, we've had a nuclear reactor on our campus in Pocatello for 40 plus years. Not very many people know. I didn't know that. When I started and first came to the administration building at Idaho State University, when I was told that just about 150 yards away from that building, there's a nuclear reactor, I was like, what?
That's wild.
There's what? But it's been there. And we use it to train students. We do research. INL teams come down. We send teams up. We share. We collaborate. So this idea of developing a safe, efficient, new way to use nuclear to generate power has been around for a long, long time. And Idaho, the state of Idaho, has been at the forefront of this. Now,
may I ask a question? INL, somebody told me this the other day, used to be INEL. Right? It was like Idaho National Energy Laboratories. So the whole stated goal, at least it was my understanding, originally of INL was
energy. Well, the state of Idaho has the first city that was on the nuclear the nuclear power grid, and so this idea of nuclear generation for power is just in the DNA of this state. So And in Idaho State University, as the state's nuclear university, has been right there. So on the research side and on the development side, Idaho State University has been doing this for decades and decades with INL. What we recognize, though, is INL, as they began bringing these test reactors online, what we began seeing together is what's needed beyond just researchers and PhDs and engineers. We need a workforce to be able to run the controls. We need a workforce to be able to weld the equipment, to be able to repair, to be able to upkeep. We need a level of workforce that's not at the PhD level. It's not even at the master's level. It's at a level where they know systems and design, and they can manage and they can work the controls. So Idaho State University and our College of Technology, we developed curriculum at the certificate and the 2-year degree level to be able to provide that workforce specifically for INL. So they're hiring our graduates out of that program. And what has happened, Matt, is over the years, as we've developed the workforce for INL, now that these modular nuclear reactors are ready to come online, and we're getting states like Utah and Wyoming are starting to talk about that's our future, we're going to bring these in, and that's what's going to generate power for our states. That's great. But where are they going to get the workforce? And where are they going to train the workforce to run the equipment, to be able to take care of the equipment? Not many schools, in fact, hardly any, have developed the curriculum to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. Idaho State University has, with our relationship with INL, we developed that curriculum. So as the state of Idaho embraces nuclear power generation that's been in our history for so long, one area that I think we can really step into and step up to is the workforce demand, because all of the other states are going to scramble to be able to prepare the workforce. Getting a small nuclear reactor on site is one thing. Running that and maintaining it is something completely different. And in the state of Idaho, we have the curriculum and the experience to be able to do that. That sets us apart in this, what is becoming a nuclear renaissance and a nuclear energy race, to be able to get these modular reactors online in a safe and efficient way. So it's time for Idaho State University. We're ready to step up, and we're ready in the Pacific Northwest, in the Intermountain region. We're ready to step up and say, we have the curriculum, we can do this, we can train the workforce. And it's a great thing for the state of Idaho that I think is going to bump us back into the elite again, as far as these small nuclear modular reactors for power generation.
Yeah, everything you just like, yes to all of that. I was very fortunate to do a tour at INL, and they took me all around. It was like this 2-day tour. Shout out Liza. She took me all around, showed me all this stuff. And one of the places we went, it was like one of the, I think they call it like the hot room or something. So it's this like giant room that has, a bank, like 12 windows on one side. By the way, the windows are 4 feet thick with leaded glass. Yeah. Like everything looks orange, right? Sure. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. The room hasn't been opened since the 70s, right? So to get something in the room, you have to go through this like elaborate process of like moving it and just like all these things. And then this item drops into the room, and they have all these mechanical arms that are like the slickest, coolest things ever, because they have these like wrist essentially components. And you have, 12 windows on one side, 12 on the other. I don't know if it's actually 12. There's like at least a dozen. And on the inside, it's like something out of a mad scientist, experiment, because you have the only thing that's been in there since it started was stuff that it was either existing there first or things they inserted. So you have, I was like, what is this? It looks like the most cluttered workbench ever, but you have like duct tape bags that they were assembled in the room with like Sharpie pen. So literally these arms
with
are
these
taking
robot arms.
Right. So the arms were taking these like Sharpies and like scribbling this thing like this. And you have all of these incredibly skilled techs. So there was an Olympics. They were like, we had this nuclear Olympics. So this guy who I was chatting with, he's like, the drill was this. And again, this is like a metal clamping hand. Like this is as much as it can do. He's like, you had to take a nap. They put napkins in there and they started a stopwatch. You had to take a napkin, unfold the napkin on all both directions, put something in it, wrap it back up. And he said he was able to do it in like 15 seconds or something. So you have these people with dexterity and flow like that. And mechanical hand is their hand. And then behind them, you have these nuclear researchers who are like, okay, turn the thing off. And it's like the hand goes over and like turns this thing 90 degrees. And so they have this collaboration. You have this person who has incredible dexterity and skill and is this incredible technical person collaborating with this researchers who's running these experiments, but doesn't spend all day working in the hot room with the arm. They spend all day doing something else, right?
Exactly.
And all of this comes together with, oh, we need all of these people to be the absolute top of their game. We need the 15-second unfold the napkin, put the thing back in. We also need the person with these gigantic questions where they need the hot room. Like there's employment and need for this across the board.
There is such a broad spectrum there. So often when people think of IENL, they just think of the researchers, right? And they're great. I mean, just world class, world renowned researchers there. Idaho State, we have the most joint faculty appointments with IENL than any institution. We have faculty doing incredible things. But Matt, you're right. It's the whole spectrum. For all the researchers that they have this army of technicians. They have safety, environmental safety folks. They have just a whole population of workforce all there to support this effort. And when these small nuclear reactors come online, we need to have the spectrum of workforce to be able to run and support these nuclear reactors and do it in a very safe and efficient way. So we have to be thinking about the whole workforce spectrum. And I really do feel like the state of Idaho, we're uniquely positioned to be able to do that because we have the curriculum and we have the programs.
Did you ever read The Double Helix? It was like, so it was the story of how they figured out the DNA, right? I think it was like Watson and Crick or something. I can't remember exactly. But at the crux of that story, as it goes, they had these incredible researchers, right? And one, very notably, I remember studying in college was this gal who was like in the 50s working in this chemistry lab. And she was super defensive of all her research. And my professor was like, listen, if you're a gal working in that field at that time, you don't let anybody see your research. So you got to, and that was a funny thing. But they, at the crux of it, when they finally started having this breakthrough, they're like, oh my gosh, I think the structure is actually a double helix. They had to go and get the machinists to make the structures, make these little like steel or aluminum plates that they could then put together. But they couldn't figure out if it worked until they got the machinists to make the pieces they were essentially making the Legos. And it was this, again, a very sincere collaboration where just one could not exist effectively without the other.
Yeah, we are going to see many of the trades that have been around for decades and decades and decades. We're going to need to see nuclear versions of those trades. For example, I was talking with a College of Tech president down in Utah. They're trying to figure out, they have a company who's part of the small nuclear reactor modular production process. They're looking for welders, but they're not just looking for welders. They're looking for what they refer to as nuclear welders.
Yeah, totally different.
Totally
This is not
different.
pipe welding.
And this college president is coming to me saying, do you know what that is? Do you know how we train? How do we train welders,
Right.
but how do we train nuclear welders? And we're going to have that. We're going to have nuclear technicians, nuclear welders, nuclear machinists, all really focused on this very much state of the art, but very, very key area of the workforce where, we want to have a welder who knows how to weld within a nuclear environment. Right. We're going to want a machinist who knows how to machine within the nuclear environment. It's going to be really, really important that we have those specialties.
Okay. Getting down to brass tacks, with ISU, you guys have a lot of different layers and levels of education and training around nuclear. Start with, what's the lowest level, essentially, like a nuclear tech operator?
Sure. And so we can do in our College of Technology. And so a lot of people don't realize that one of the things that sets Idaho State University apart is we have everything from College of Tech certificates clear up to research PhDs. And we're the only institution in the state and one of the few in the country that have that breadth of programs, because our College of Technology, we serve as the community college for Southeast Idaho. And so right now, our nuclear workforce technician and maintenance programs are all in our College of Technology, which means they're associate's degrees. And so you can start right there. You can go in and you can get your associate's degrees. We are training students to not only work on the equipment, but we're training them to run the equipment. Idaho State with INL was the first to develop a virtual nuclear reactor that we're actually able to train our students on in a virtual environment. And so we can do that at the associate's degree level. They can go out, they can get fantastic jobs. Again, most of them right now are going directly to INL, and INL is telling us, get us more, bring us more. As these nuclear modular sites come online, those jobs are going to become a lot more plentiful. So we'll double down on those programs. What's great about that, though, too, is that those associate's degrees can stack into bachelor's degrees if they want to continue on eventually and get an engineering degree. We can stack those associate degrees right into a bachelor's degree, right into a master's degree. So that's one of the benefits too of Idaho State, is that they can come and get those associate's degrees and get a fantastic job, well-paying a job. But later on, if they want to go and get an advanced degree, they can do that. They can hop right back on the highway and get that degree.
So you essentially have 2-year exits. Correct. Where it's associate's degree, 2-year, you pop off, you start, you go into the field.
Fantastic jobs.
You can come back, hit your 4-year. Pop off, you're gone.
Fantastic jobs.
And then you're like, okay, I want to go next level. Or maybe the company's like, hey, we'll pay for you to go get this master's degree. You come back, another 2 years, pop right off.
And maybe that master's degree is not a mechanical or a nuclear engineering degree. Maybe it's an MBA. Because now they want to run the company. Now they want to lead the company. Now they want to be more involved in other aspects of the company. So that's one of the great things about a comprehensive university, is that we can put those options on the table in a stackable degree way. That concept of okay, you start as a tech, then you're a researcher, and then you're running the company. That's also, believe it or not, a very similar methodology to In-N-Out, the burger place, right? So the people that are managers have worked every level of the job. Yeah. So once they get to managing a store, first off, they're making I think it's $120,000 a year. At least it was a while back. And they started all of them have washed tomatoes. All of them have taken orders. All of them have made milkshakes, and they've gone all the way up. So they intimately know the operations, the pain points, all of those different things, so they can really effectively manage. So you guys effectively have the exact same thing. And we tell our College of Technology students that. Come and get that welding certificate. Come and get that welding associate's degree. Go and get that great job. learn and grow. Come back and get your business management degree, and then go form your own company. Go run it. And that's local economic development. That's real impact in the communities that we are serving, because these graduates now are coming back. They're getting credentials, they're getting experience, they're getting a degree, and then they're going on and they're advancing. And I will tell you, Matt, nothing leads to economic development more than stories like that, where we hear about our graduates who graduated with an associate's degree, fantastic welders, fantastic machinists, and 5-10 years later, they're opening up a welding shop, or they're opening up a machine shop, and they're now employing students that are coming from our programs. And it's just giving back. And it's a cycle that's happening within our communities right now.
Talk to me about the attainability and accessibility of this, right? Because again, as a public university, you're very concerned about, or at least you articulated last time, you're like, look, we need it to be accessible to people. If I'm looking at a two-year associate's degree, what am I looking at as far as capital outlay? Are there programs available to help me? And like, what are we looking at on the back end?
Well, first of all, I would say our associate's degrees for our nuclear technical programs, our operations programs, those qualify for launch. We have launch in this state. And students can apply, get into these programs. They can use launch, and they can get their associate's degree clear through launch. Between launch and additional scholarships and funding available at Idaho State, it doesn't cost them that much of anything. And they can come in and they can get those programs, and they can leave with high-paying jobs. These programs are an example, I believe, of where launch is going in and saying, these are the future jobs that are going to be needed in this state, and launch is going to fund them. And launch is going to fund the education of the workforce to be able to go into these jobs of the future, and not just the future, the near future. And so there are scholarships, there's funding available for students to come in to get these certificates, to get these associate's degrees. Matt, we say at Idaho State, finances for a student is not an impediment to them getting their education. We will find a way. They will find a way. And so access.
One question, and I don't know what this is like in your area, neck of the woods. One problem I think that tuition explosion and cost of tuition is a problem nationally, especially with private schools and other things. But, again, the Idaho State University and other Idaho options, the tuition is still very, very reasonable. I think ISU is like $8,000 a year. Okay.
Yep. About compared to our surrounding states, very, very low.
Very low.
Very low.
One of the problems, though, that gets tacked on and gets blamed on, let's say 4-year or even, your College of Technology is the cost of room and board jump on top of that. They're like, okay, well, the tuition wasn't that much, but then I spent like 12 or 15,000 per year on just living. Now, again, whether that's right or wrong that it gets blamed on me, I have no idea. But do you guys have options or like work-live programs or work-study programs that help people? Yeah, look, you're going to go to school full time, but you can also probably spare, 4 to 5 hours a day, or, like different times, work on the weekends, do whatever you have to do so that you can also bridge that gap with like, okay, now you're living and you're eating and you're studying. The launch is taking care of some of, let's say roughly half of your tuition for a 2-year program. And then we're going to help you bridge this gap for the extra 12 to 15 you need for the other program or for the other costs.
Well, there are a lot more financial aid options that are available to our students where they can apply and they can get help for a room and board. Idaho State University, we're looking at developing public-private partnerships in Pocatello to build more student housing and do that so that the rent is more affordable for our students. So in addition to the effort of creating more financial aid opportunities for our students for things like room and board and actual cost. They call that the total cost. They call it cost of attendance. Cost of attendance is more than just tuition and fees.
Sure.
Cost of attendance is room and board to its books. So we're looking, and we offer ways to make cost of attendance more affordable. We're looking to build housing to make it more affordable for our students. I will say, Matt, that in the culture that we live in this state, frankly, most of our students work. A lot of students across the country will go into debt. Idahoans don't go into debt like the rest of the country does. They just don't. Our student loan debt is on the lower side of most states across the country. So a lot of our students work. Many of our students in our College of Technology that are working in these programs are working side jobs. Their classes are conducive to be able to do that. So there are a lot of ways that we can sit down with students and say, hey, we can make this affordable. You can live. You can have room and board. You can afford your books. You can afford the tools that you're going to need as part of this program. We'll figure out a way to do that. We have local businesses that provide help for our students with tools, say, and specific scholarships and different programs. So there's a myriad of ways that we can sit down with students and say, money is not going to stop you from doing this program.
That's great. And you may not know this for sure, but like, what is the like salary range for somebody graduating from the College of Technology? And again, I know it depends on the company.
Oh, it ranges. Yeah, you can get. I mean, we have welders graduating and getting jobs at 60, 80 grand. You're just within the welding field itself.
Gotcha.
You look at the automobile. The automotive industry, HVAC. You look at some of the health professional programs that we do. It can be beyond that. So we've got students graduating with certificates or associate's degrees that are going out and finding $60,000 to $80,000 a year
instantly.
jobs.
Yeah. I had a gal from West Ada who's running for re-election for Board of Education, and she's a big CTE advocate. I'm actually going to see the CTE program at West Ada in a couple weeks, which will be pretty cool. But she had two wonderful stories about people graduating from West Ada. One went into HVAC and one went into diesel mechanics, and both were making six figures by the time they were like 20 years old.
You know, I tell the story of my own kids, and my...
Of course you do. Every parent thinks they all do.
We all do.
But my kid's really special.
But why I tell the story of my five kids is that each of them represent a different segment of the population we serve. My oldest son changed universities twice because he wanted to be an entrepreneur. So he chose the second university because of the business connections, the industry connections that the College of Business had. That's just what he was thinking about. My daughter got a bachelor's degree, went on and got a graduate degree. My third son, he went 2 semesters to humor his old man and then said, I'm done with this. He did the College of Technology round, went and got a welding certificate and got a fantastic job and is now supporting our 3 grandkids with a great job and great experience. I had a son who was majoring in computer science and said, I'm going to go do a 14-week coding boot camp so I can start a little earlier to be able to code. He went and did that. Then it finally took me my fifth child to get a political science major, which I'm very proud of. But she had to do internship. So yes, I'm proud of my kids. But what I also use them as an example of is that's what we have students doing. And we're going to have students who are going to get bachelor's and master's degrees, and they're going to get fantastic jobs. We have professional careers out there. that need bachelor's and master's degrees. We need researchers out there with PhDs. That is critically important. It's critically important to the economy of this state, but we need associate's degrees and we need certificates, and there's a workforce and a comprehensive public research university like Idaho State. Oftentimes, Matt, there's a negative connotation to saying you have to be everything to everyone. Well, at Idaho State, I love saying that because we have to be. We have to be able to cater to the student who just wants a certificate or wants a 2-year degree, is going to go out and find a fantastic job within their community, raise a family and contribute to their community. We want the students that want to get a bachelor's degree, that are looking for a transformational experience, that don't know what they want to be when they grow up. They come and they experience that and they get a bachelor's degree, and maybe they go on and become a lawyer. Maybe they go on and become a doctor or an accountant. We need that. We need students that are just saying, I just want to research. I love this. I'm passionate about this field. I want to explore because I want to be able to lead. I want to be able to contribute to innovation within this area. Well, guess what? That's how we ended up where we're at with nuclear power. So we need to be everything to everyone, and to be able to provide those opportunities for traditional and for non-traditional students. And I'm going to shout that from the rooftops. That's one of the reasons why I came to Idaho State, was because that's an institution that can do that. It's comprehensive. And we have great institutions in the state that all do really significant parts of that process. And the state is very well positioned to be able to do that, to develop the workforce that we need at the certificate, the associate's degree level, but we're very well positioned too on the professional side and on the research side. This state, we have the whole spectrum here, and frankly, we need to double down.
Yeah, to your point, I've been thinking a lot about the person like myself, right? When I started college, I was like, yeah, I'm going to study math. I want to work for NASA. I had no idea what people NASA did. I knew it had numbers, right? It was like, yeah, sure, whatever, go to the moon again, maybe. Anyway, the point is, I had that idea, and then I had to take general education courses, and I fell in love with communication. Didn't know what I was going to do with communication, but how that fits into the larger picture and what the value proposition for the community and individuals are, it's something that I've grappled with. Like, well, how would I even justify this to myself now? Like, if one of my kids, and ultimately what I've kind of arrived at, which is the closest analogy possible that I've figured out, is like, you have somebody who's got a paintbrush, and maybe that person really just wants to paint apples. And that's all they want to do. And they go to a university and they're like, this is how you paint Grabenstein. This is how you paint, whatever the apple is. Doesn't matter. Granny Smith, crab apple. Honeycrisp is my favorite. One love. Anyway, the point is, you have that person who paints apples, but then you have the other person with the paintbrush is like, I don't know what I want to paint. Do you not teach that person how to paint? They're like, no, I like painting. I just don't know what I want to paint. You don't know what the person's going to paint, but you teach them and train them and help them develop the skill set. And then you unleash them to be this artist. Who knows what crazy things they're going to come up with? But just because they don't know what they want to paint from the get-go doesn't mean that you don't encourage them to learn all the methodology of painting.
Absolutely. Or maybe they come in thinking they want to paint because they want to create. And then maybe through a general education course, they've just discovered that they can create in a lab.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, chemistry and biology opens up their mind, and they're thinking research and innovation. And that's where pharmaceuticals come from. I mean, that's where some of the most advanced medicine has come from creative minds. And so we need to be prepared for the students, especially the 18-year-olds that come in and say, one of the favorite questions I ask on Bengal Viz a day, when we have hundreds of high school students come and they're all sitting at tables with their mom or their dad, and they're looking nervous and they're looking around and they can't believe that they're going to be on a campus next year. And I walk by, I sit down at the table and I talk to these high school students and I ask them, I say, what do you want to study? And probably about 6 or 7 out of 10 will actually say, oh, I want to be a nurse. I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer. I want to be an automotive technician. About 3 or 4 will say, I don't know yet. And my response is, good for you. Guess what? You're in the right place, because you're going to come and you're going to take a series of classes and you're going to explore and you're going to find what you're passionate about. I've often thought about, and maybe it's just weird because that's what I think about as education, but you walk in and see an accountant, very professional accountant, has been doing this for years and years. Have you ever thought about asking them when they were 18, did they want to be an accountant? Or you do the same to a doctor, or you do the same to an engineer? Is that what they wanted to be when they were 18? And oftentimes they'll say no. They'll say, I wanted to be a firefighter, which is great. In our society, we need firefighters. But at university or at a community college, they found their passion. They found something. And so now I'm sitting there with a doctor who's passionate about what she is doing. I'm sitting there with an engineer who's passionate about what she is doing. I'm sitting there with an accountant who's passionate about what she is doing, all because they had that higher education, that transformational experience that is really important. And again, we're going to get those students that are going to come and say, I'm going to be a nurse. I wanted to be a nurse since I was 6. I want to be a nurse now. That's what I am doing. I want to be a doctor. I want to be an attorney. That's fantastic. We'll get you there. But if you don't know, we have the depth and breadth to be able to find what your passion is.
Yeah. I know today's a working day, but I have one last thing that it's like, I'm going to give this one to you. And I've been holding on to this one.
Okay.
So I have a friend who went into a coding boot camp, and he came up as part of his thing. He had to like make an app. So he made this app that, which I thought was pretty cool. He's like, yeah, you just take a picture of your refrigerator and the app comes up with something you can cook. And it's like turtle and ketchup soup or something I don't know, like whatever craziness, right? And they come up with something, right? And we've all experienced that where you're staring in a fridge and you're like, what in the hell am I going to do with like a pickle? And like, but I got one that everyone can relate to. You make an app where you can take a bin of Legos, you take a picture of that bin, and you put in an area of interest, say it's Star Wars, say it's buildings, say it's trains, whatever it is. And the app uses AI to scan through the pieces and come up with an image that looks in the likeness of one of your areas of interest and then gives you instructions for it. That would be the most purchased app in the App Store in the history of apps.
Absolutely.
Like how wild, like, cause I have 3 boys, all 3 of them have these bins that they have to have, I don't know, thousands of dollars. It's like, by the way, I went out looking for those bins when my boys were young because my wife was like, well, you know, we wanted them to get in Legos and she, like, somebody bought them. Like, I'm like, we're not buying Legos. We're going to every garage store that's advertised on Saturday.
I just have that bin and create.
That's right. And it was training them how to create because they didn't understand how to make something cool. And I was like, you just start putting things together and then you put one piece over here and one piece. Oh my gosh. And I had to train them how to create these things that they, you know, initially they're like, look at this. I'm like, it's terrible. But of course you tell them like, it looks great, son. And then later on, it's like, they bring down things like, check out this thing. And it's got a pullback, you know, spring in it and it has a light. And you're like, oh my God, dude, you made that? And they start doing those things. But having an app that helps them put together things that they wouldn't have otherwise done, even if it's a rudimentary instruction set, that would be the best thing. Well, like Lego should buy this idea.
Right. It trademark. It taps into their creativity.
Right.
We all have that creativity bone someplace. And at some point, maybe we tapped it down at a young age and we got older and we just don't exercise that. And maybe it's not a bone, maybe it's creative muscle. And we just don't exercise that anymore. An app like that, you talk about these apps. I mean, I have a fitness app that I use to exercise and do things that attracts me. You're talking about a creativity app that exercises our creativity muscles, and especially at a young age. And man, I can't think of a better thing to do for young minds, to be able to help them to be able to realize their potential and see that they can create, that they can innovate. This is the age of innovation. It's the age of creation.
Yeah.
It's happening at a fast pace, at a very rapid pace. This goes back to our discussion about nuclear. That's what that's about. It's about how it's developing and really being an innovative society. And we need people to be able to create, to be able to have that creativity muscle that is really, really strong, because that's the future. And we need that in this state because that's going to help this state competitively across the country. And frankly, it's going to help our country too. It's a security issue. It's a economic development issue. We need to be able to create and innovate.
Amen to that.
Great app. Great app idea.
We call it wild bricks.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because we can't say Lego, but we'll say bricks. Wild
that
bricks.
Is awesome.
Get the wild bricks app.
Get that thing. Let's use it. Let's use it.
President Wagner, I really appreciate your time today. I know you got to get downtown for a thing. Is there anything you'd like to add at the end here?
No, just thank you very much. I really, really appreciate doing this. It's something that, of course, I hope you can see and feel. I am passionate about higher education, its role in our state, in the communities that we serve. I'm passionate about public higher ed and really take that accountability and that responsibility seriously. So thank you for the discussion, for the great questions. Incredible things are happening in the state, and institutions of higher education are part of that. And they're part of where the state is going and how we're going to continue to succeed.
Well, again, thank you for making the time. And next time you come, I want a hat, just so you know.
We're going to bring you as much swag. This place is going to be orange and black.
I can't wait.
Just wait.
It'll be great. Thank you again. We'll do it again.
Okay, thanks.